Sophia and Olivia. And are we all mothers here? Fathers. Yeah, all mothers, fathers, yeah. So we kind of know how hard it is to navigate being a mum and going back to work or homeschooling. This one we'll talk about very soon, which I don't understand how she does that. But yeah, I've got 2 daughters. I've got a day job. So my 9 to 5 is I work as an event manager at Red Bull UK. So all the fun stuff, the culture side, so music and dance, so whether that is Red Bull Carnival or Culture Clash, or we've got a dance event that's all about break dancing or street dancing. So I do that as my 9 to 5. And then I've also got a business called March Muses, where we create Christmas decorations of colour. So Black Angels, Black Santa, I keep saying Black Angels, Black Santa, or just angels and Santa that have black skin, because this is going to be normal, not novelty. We were on Dragon's Den last year. We got lots of money, or some money, from 2 investors, and we're about to go into our 5th year. I'm doing a session later on at about 2 o'clock. It's like a pitch battle kind of vibe. So make sure you come to that as well. And yeah, mum of 2. So the hardest job that doesn't pay anything, is being the mum of 2. I say teenagers, but they're 9 and 12 going on, 23. So that's me in a nutshell. Thank you. It pays in hugs and kisses, I guess.
And Natalie, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So, slightly less glamorous. I think I am one. Can you hear me okay?
You might need to lift the mic up a little bit closer to your mouth.
Can you hear me? I'm not coming through.
Take Natalie's.
Okay. This better. Yeah. I was going to say slightly less glamorous than Natalie and the kind of culture events at Red Bull and everything. I actually am a stay-at-home mum, that word, but I was working for a long time and juggling that with motherhood as a presenter and producer on radio. I worked across the Premier brands, Premier Christian Radio, Premier Gospel, Premier Praise, doing some of the breakfast shows, drive time shows, podcasts, and all of that. I have 5 children. Go on, say something. Say it, I know you want to say it.
So, I know we're here to talk about business, guys, but it's the business of motherhood. And I have to say, for as long as I've known Natalie, I feel like she's always been pregnant. Like, consistently. I don't know what goes down in her household.
Hey, my dad's here.
She's always, Dad knows his daughter is always pregnant. But yes, it is a joke that is a business for her in itself. And we always joke that she's got like 10 kids under the age of 10, but it's...
Yes.
6? Are we at 6? 5?
5 kids, 9 and under. So yeah, I am happy to share plenty about the juggle. I was still working for about 8 years, and I've had to hang up those working shoes. But for good reason, because I do also home educate kids.
You're lucky my bike's not working right now, because I'd be telling you about yourself.
She chooses to homeschool. So for those who are parents who had to during COVID, so we know the pain of that. This is doing it by choice, which I will never ever. Well, they'll see. Does anyone else homeschool just before? No. Everyone's on my. Before I start cussing you out. Yeah, she does this by choice.
Alright, so I will explain a bit about how I navigated all of that. But yeah.
And so just to touch on the choice to homeschool, a lot of us found it very difficult over COVID, having to manage businesses or having to manage working, our careers, home life, as well as raising children and homeschooling our children, that we were forced into doing it. And Adwoa does it by choice, which I'll never understand. But yes, but on that note, can you share kind of before you obviously stopped working and became a stay-at-home mum, can you just share about your personal journey in navigating career with motherhood and family life?
So for me, when I was presenting a breakfast show, a national breakfast show at the time that I had my first child, but I immediately knew that I wanted my work to work around family life and not to make family life go around work. So at the time I'd already been with that company for probably about 5 years. So there was trust there, we knew each other well. And I basically said, I want to go down to 3 days a week. I gave up my position as the breakfast show host, which I was very happy to do because I felt like being with my child at that time of my life was more important for me, and I could maybe navigate my way back to that position in work one day. And I went down to 3 days a week, and then I also asked to work ridiculous hours that would make it work again for me. So I was working more or less as a producer at this point. So I said, rather than doing kind of 9 to 5, can I start work at 3 in the afternoon and finish at 11 p.m? And I know that sounds insane, but I'm a bit of a night owl anyway, so it didn't bother me. But it also meant I could spend much of the day with my daughter when she was young. And then there was a few hours in the day when my mum, I was blessed to have my mum able to look after her. And then my husband by 6 o'clock was home, so the majority of the time she was with parents. I'd finish at 11, be home by half 11, and then we'd start again the next day. Now, I was only able to do this because I was doing a kind of role that I did have that flexibility. But what I would say is always ask.
Yeah.
Do ask. It may sound crazy, and they probably thought I was crazy, but I wanted to make it work for me.
Yeah.
So I asked, and I proved to them I can still do my job just as well working 3 to 11 than working 9 to 5.
And I think when you talk about asking, it's really important, because I know for myself, before COVID, I was a single parent, and so for me it was really, I didn't want to pay those extortionate after school fees, breakfast club fees, and I was very lucky, and I'm really happy to see a lot of men in the audience, because my boss at the time was a father, his partner worked as well, so when I said to him, can I have flexible working? I want to work from home on a Friday, I need to leave by 3 p.m. to get home, but I'm happy to be on emails from my phone, and I was very intentional about that. And he was like, fine, not a problem, supported my official flexible working request to HR. And I think as parents, it's really important to know actually you do have rights. You do have, when you're in a corporate environment, every company has to consider flexible working requests. And I think that helps us as mothers trying to stay in the workforce to be able to manage home life with our work life. And Natalie, I know you have a similar experience to me, that you were a single mum for a period of time, but you also launched a business. How did you find navigating launching a business, working a 9 to 5, with also having 2 children?
Yeah, I don't know how I did it. Like I said, I work for Red Bull, so I think that's what got me through it. Literally drinking Red Bull morning, noon and night just to get me through those days. I think starting, when you have babies, going back to work is really daunting. And I know I didn't want to go back to work. I didn't want to go back to a 9 to 5. And that's how myself and my business partner, Alison, started talking in the first place. We were like, what can we do that means that we don't need to go back to work and we can kind of be creatives and do little things. So we actually started a school business where we would do workshops in schools. I've got a theatre background, so I went to the Brit School of Performing Arts, and then I went to Brunel, studied drama, and then I got my master's at East 15 acting school. So theatre is like in my blood. And my business partner's in recruitment. So together we're like, okay, why don't we do a careers workshop that, couples skills that you need to go into work, but also makes it interesting and adds a bit of theatre and stuff like that. And we did this for a couple of years in loads of different schools, and actually it was really flexible. It was during school time, it was obviously in the summer, there was no work, so you got to spend time with your kids. And that was it was a real nice thing to do. And then we realised actually, this was like 2013, 14, so the budget started to be cut from schools and stuff like that. So I've always had an entrepreneurial kind of mindset. And so from the schools workshop, we started another business. It was a Christmas business where elves would come and knock on your door at Christmas time and do like a home elf visit in your house, which is, when I think about it, it's absolutely crazy. But we were sold out. We were up and down the country. We had a whole group of elves, actors, out-of-work actors, who weren't working over Christmas, who wanted to do some work. And so we would send them in their pairs, because safety first, and they would knock on the door and they'd be like, oh, is Sarah and Harry in? Oh, we've been sent from the North Pole to find out if you're in the naughty or the niceness. And then they would come in, they'll do this whole kind of performance in your front room, and then they'll open the big naughty and nice book, and it says, well, it says here, Harry, that you don't brush your teeth at night. So, are you going to be on the naughty or the nice list? Don't worry, you're on the nice list, just brush your teeth. So it was a parenting tool as well, because parents would tell us things about Harry. And that was amazing, and then obviously COVID hit, so you can't go into people's houses. So we were like, okay. And then this is where March Muses was born, because it was Christmas time and my daughter and I were hanging up decorations, and she said, can angels have brown skin? I said, of course they can have brown skin. What a silly question. Why would you ask me such a silly question as I was hanging up white angels, white Santa, white elf on the shelf? I was like, okay, this is why she's asking me if angels can have brown skin. And so we went online, couldn't find any, and then this is how March Muses was born, literally from that question. Obviously, throughout all of that, I was lucky enough to work in an environment where Red Bull, and I think obviously most people know Red Bull, if you think about the type of business it is, like what it puts out, it's basically what it is inside. It's very fun, very creative, very forward thinking. So even before working from home was a thing, we were always working from home. Before, men getting paternity and all this, we were already doing that. So it was always ahead of the game. And I definitely feel like it's a privilege. It's an absolute privilege where I work. And I know that there's so many other places that don't do that. We actually have a friend who was scared to ask her boss if she could go to her son's nativity play. And I think she missed it in the end, or maybe she asked and he kind of said okay for like a little bit. And so when you're a parent, the mum guilt definitely comes in, because you want to get sports day, you want to be at the nativity play, you want to drop them off at a decent time in the morning so they don't have to go to breakfast club at bloody 7 a.m. because you've got to get to work at 9 a.m. So it is a juggling act. But the one thing that I would say, I know there are some dads in here, but mums, if you want something done, you ask a busy woman, and we know how to juggle. And I think business, entrepreneurship is all about juggling. I'm not going to be doing this forever, I hope. I know that there'll be a time when this won't be a thing, but for now, this is my reality. And it literally is. When I say it's a juggle, I don't have it down, I don't have the work-life balance down, I have mum guilt, and I literally go from Red Bull to March Muses. I do my 9 to 5, then I come home and I do my 5 to 8 with the kids, and then I do my 8 to midnight March Muses. That's my day. So I would love to give you strategies of how to balance it all and how to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. The one thing I will say is just having a village. If it wasn't for my mum, if it wasn't for the kids' dad, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do now.
And we're going to come back to the mum guilt, because I think it's a thing that a lot of us in the room who are mums and work or have a business probably experience. So we're going to come back to that. But I just want to find out, for you, Natalie, what was the biggest challenge for you in terms of, I know you really wanted to make work fit around family life and not family fitting around work life, but what was the biggest challenge for you in doing that?
I think it was proving to work that I could still do the work. They
so essentially proving your value.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying me monthly. I've come back from maternity leave already 4 months pregnant with my next child.
I told you for as long as I've known her, she always gets pregnant.
I did it twice. After the second child, I came back 4 months pregnant again. But what can they say? I'm entitled to a family, and I had to remember, because I started to feel guilt and embarrassment.
I've got some questions.
I did start to feel guilt and embarrassment, but why should I? I'm entitled to grow my family in whichever way I want to do that. And I came back and I proved to them that I can still work hard, and I'm still going to do everything that I need to do, because you trust me, I trust you, and we're going to work together with this. And they were fine to my face.
And I think it's really important, going back to what you said, it is really important to have those conversations, but also instead of standing in somebody's office trying to prove to them why they should give you flexible working or why they should give you varied hours, actually let the work speak for itself.
100%, 100%. And I enjoyed my job as well. And I think it's very difficult to do if you've only just started in a workplace. So I think if you are thinking of starting a family and you're looking for a new job, obviously look at what the kind of maternity package is first, or get in there and work a few years or whatever first. But it is important to know your rights, and also just remember that it's your life. It is your life, and you've got to live your life how you want to live it, and do whatever you can to the best of your ability to make it work for you, so that you have as few regrets as possible.
And with you, Natalie, I know you have your 9 to 5 at the amazing Red Bull, and I read their offices, they're incredible. But just honing in specifically on the entrepreneurship element of what you do, what were the biggest challenges? I know you said you're still trying to figure it out, but what for you, what was the biggest challenge in approaching, you've launched March Muses. I think I know what the answer is, but I'm gonna let you tell it. But you've launched March Muses. You are doing school run in the morning. You are working at Red Bull, whether it's at home or going into the office. You're doing school run in the evening. You're spending time with the children in the evening, and you've launched March Muses. So now you need to grow and accelerate your business. What was the biggest challenge in doing that?
Oh God, Carina, there are so many challenges. Where do I even begin? I think as black women receive 0.02% of investment. That was a stat last year, that black women have received 0.02% investment. And to compare, white women received 9% investment from like VCs and stuff, and then white men received like 800%. Who knows? Like, they received everything else. So for us to receive 0.02%, that just means that, you know, we have to work extra hard. With March Muses, there's a lot of like, you know, we're turning something that was traditionally, or maybe not traditionally, but has been seen as white for a very long time. We were turning it on its head, so it seemed. We were, you know, having a black angel, which, you know, we received lots of races and lots of all that. So all the racism is never a nice thing, and as black people, you know, like it's always rife, especially in this country. But when it's directed at you, at something that you're trying to do that isn't really going to affect anyone, like don't buy it if it's really affecting you. So yeah, definitely investment, because no one invests in black women. Racism that we get from our things, and then just the work-life balance, like not having a real personal life, like, you know, single for a very long time, and so it's always hard to kind of even meet people when you're working literally the whole day, and when you're not working, you're with your kids sorting all of that out. So it comes in ebbs and flows, but definitely those were and still are the challenges, because even with the investment that we received, it was fantastic, but it doesn't solve everything because of all the things that are stacked up against you, especially as black women in business.
And so just going back to what you said about managing the work-life balance and balancing all of the balls that you've got going on, I think for me it's something that as a mother, as someone who works, has a side hustle, it's something that I also really struggle with. And what I find, and only recently, is that I'm really trying to manage my time more effectively. I can't do it all. And I think that's something that also translates into entrepreneurship as well. That you have to realize that you don't have time to do it all, right? You cannot juggle all of these things, because essentially you're going to burn out. I have a funny story that because I always forget things, I never put things in my diary, I'm always trying to do 10,000 things at once. I've got an event next week, and a few weeks ago I said, right, I'm going to get myself sorted, I'm going to manage my time properly, I'm going to book my hair appointment. So I booked the hair appointment, but I forgot to put it in my diary. And then last week I was like, right, I'm going to get myself sorted, I'm going to book my hair appointment. I booked it again for the same day, I paid for it, but put it in my diary.
You've got money then.
Well, this is the thing, I was thinking, I'm doing calculations, I was like, where's this extra, like, £60 gone? And sometimes actually when you're trying to manage time effectively, and you're trying to be organised, sometimes you can overburn yourself and overpush yourself. So for both of you, I'll start with you, Natalie. How do you manage your time effectively? I think being a stay-at-home mum,
Who homeschools?
who homeschools, how do you manage your time effectively currently?
Oh boy, I don't know if I am doing it effectively, but so yeah, I've got 5 children, young children at home, and it is a struggle. But I try to make sure that I stay a bit organised. I plan in the day. Right, this is what we're doing in the morning, kids. In the afternoon, I might have a meeting here, so here's the TV, which I'm trying to get rid of a bit now because I felt like I was relying too much on the TV, because it's a nice little babysitter, isn't it? And then get back to some homeschooling in the afternoon. It's hard, it is hard, but again, as Natalie said, it's about a village. I moved out of London about 5 years ago, and I was just really blessed to kind of make wonderful new friends. A lot of them are home-educated families as well, so they understand these home-ed mums and dads. Often they're juggling work, part-time work, a side hustle, along with home educators. You still got to bring in money somehow. So we all help each other out. So if they can see that, okay, right, then Adra's got a lot to do on this day, they're like, right, send your kids to me. Even if it's not all of them, send me some of them so it's a little bit easier for you at home. So I would say it's about getting that village around. It doesn't always have to be family. And I know it can be hard to trust people, but, excuse me, just try to build good relationships. You don't need 10, like, loads of people, just 1 or 2 even, who can help you out when you need it, is what I would say.
And how about you, Natalie? How do you currently manage your time effectively, or what advice would you give in terms of managing time?
I am on Instagram a lot, scrolling, so I waste my time a lot. I procrastinate. I am up until sometimes 2 a.m. literally just on TikTok, and sending you memes and sending my friend memes and stuff like that.
I'm gonna stop her. She's been cussing me because I've been off Instagram for the past couple of months. And you're like, why are you off Instagram? Because of that.
Well, that's why you don't get the memes that I send. I don't even send it to you. I think for me, so I'm lucky, my daughters are 9 and 12, so they get into an age, and just so you know, it does get easier. So anyone who has younger babies and under maybe like 7 years old, oh, it gets so much easier as they get. Obviously, it's a whole different ballgame, and there's other things you've got to think about. But I include them a lot, especially in March reunions. So for a very long time, Alison and I we were packing all the orders in our houses, and they were there packing with us and helping with us. They're very good at TikTok, which I'm not good at, especially my 12-year-old. So I'm like, okay, you're the TikTok queen. So I get them involved, and actually it's also like spreading the workload. So I'm doing all of that. I can't tell you what the answer is. I go 100%. I go 100%, and then I do burn out. But then when I burn out, I'll just sit and maybe just one weekend not do anything, watch Netflix, catch up on everything, and then I go 100% again. That's just me.
And
that's just the flow of it.
That works for you.
It works right now. I'm tired. I'm a 40-year-old woman. I'm exhausted. Getting up is getting harder. But doing that is how I function right now. It's not sustainable. Yeah. But I know that because I know where I want to go and what I want to do, I need to go 100% right now, because I've got loads of things that I want to make sure I do in my prime, in these years where I'm like, okay, I've got the energy to do it.
Yeah. I think
can we answer a question of you guys?
We are going to take questions afterwards, so bear with us one moment because the girls are actually talking. Yeah, you'll be able to at the end. Don't worry, you're welcome. I think what's really interesting is when I was working, there was my boss, big boss. She was CEO of a massive media agency, and she was a single mum. And I always used to think, like, how does she manage her time? You're at work all day, you have events after work, and what she said to me, she said she always just carves out time for her son. And he sees his mum working. It's not like, she's just out and about doing whatever. He sees that, and she tries to bring him along whenever she can to see that mum's at work, and also that he gets to experience that kind of first step into the business world or careers. And similarly, I've done the same with my daughter, Soraya, is going to be 14 this year, and for her, she, you know, in the summer I said to her, "You're coming into the office today?" She's like, "Oh, am I going to get free stuff?" And I'm like, "No, nothing being given out. I work in like marketing." So she was like, "Anything free being given out?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "I'm not going to come in there." But when she does come in, she does help pack boxes to send things out to clients, etc. So she's always understood that. When I can bring her to events that I'm speaking at, she comes. And I think the question is, would you encourage your children to get into business or to have a career in entrepreneurship?
For me, absolutely. You know, I work at Red Bull, but Red Bull's not mine. It's a fizzy drink.
And not everyone's built to be a boss.
That's fine, and not everyone has to be a boss. But I definitely feel like everyone should have something that's theirs, that they can have a bit of control over. Like, even with the homeschooling, that's yours, you've got control over it. Because there's not a lot of things that we can have control over in this world, because it's, you know, money and all these things that you always have to kind of make sure that you can live and stuff like that. But for me, like Red Bull is just a job. Like, it's a fizzy drink. When I leave, it will still be a fizzy drink. Like, I'm not really going to have the biggest legacy there. So for me, it's just about what I've got now. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Shonda Rhimes does this amazing speech, and she talks about how, you know, if I'm killing it at work on Grey's Anatomy, that means I'm missing bath time with my daughter. And if I've got someone's last day on Scandal, that means I've missed the recital with my daughter. But what she loves is that her daughters get to come to Shondaland, which is basically like Disneyland, and they get to see all the things that she's doing while she's not with them. And I think it's important that if you are in work and if you are going down the entrepreneurship road, that your children see the work and they see why you're doing it, because it's so easy to be like, "Oh, my mum was never around, my dad was never around," but actually what were they doing? Were they working so that you could have them? And I think for me, I want my children to see me doing everything that I possibly can. And also it helps with the mum guilt. It helps with that, because I feel like if they can see what I'm doing, then you don't feel as guilty. It's not the perfect answer, but that's what works for me.
And bringing your children along and getting them to see what mum's working on, whether it's in a corporate environment, whether it's entrepreneurship. We talk a lot about generational wealth, right? And accelerating careers. Do you think we are really creating and building businesses that we can leave to our children in terms of generational wealth? And or in your case, Nigel, are we actually giving our children, like developing them with the tips, the tricks, the values, the morals, the skills for them to be able to be equipped in a corporate environment or to be able to succeed in the world of business or employment?
I mean, from what I hear, in schools they're not doing enough of that at all. And they should be. I mean, money is, I don't say money is everything, but we need money, we need business. That's how the world goes round.
Even CV writing.
Yeah.
I receive so many CVs at Red Bull for like different roles, and the CVs are terrible half the time, and it's really upsetting, because I feel like these are like core skills that we should be learning, how to just put a CV together, and they're not teaching that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even just this morning, my kids were asking me, where am I going? Can kids come along? They always want to come to everything I'm doing.
That's why.
So I'm trying to have a nice peaceful shower, and my 8-year-old son is now telling me about different business ideas that he's got because of Hustle Fest, and he's decided that he was going to sell phone cases. And I was like, okay, everyone needs a phone case, but what's different about your phone case? And we went onto Amazon, and then he was blown away by just how many phone cases were on there. So I was like, yours needs to stand out.
You've crushed his dream.
But I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to help him at the same time. So I think we do need to just equip them. I don't feel like I'm an entrepreneur. I have loads of ideas. I'm an ideas person. I just don't know how to execute them. I struggle with that element. But I think with ideas, you can still do fantastic things. You can partner with someone who can execute. You can develop your children's creativity to think outside the box. Again, homeschooling helps me to do that a lot with my kids. So I say, yeah, about the generational wealth. If we can put in the work now, it will go down to our children, so that they can, even if they are employed by someone, they're going to be maybe ahead of the game because they're thinking differently as well.
And Natalie, do you feel that March Muses is a business that you are creating generational wealth for your children?
I hope so. I think sometimes in the black community we don't really have that generational wealth, and I think it's something that a lot of people want to do, but whether we can do it is a different thing. I would love to, like, you know, in all honesty, I still rent. So, you know, I would love to own a place that I could then hand over to them as well. Everything I do is for my kids, and I hope to God that they are seeing me and that they are thinking about what they want to do later on in life, which, you know, who knows what they want to do, but I'll support them no matter what. But I think it is important. I think, you know, as much as Nanadra is a homeschooler, I'm a parent governor at my child's school. So although I'm not there teaching, I really want to make sure that whatever they're teaching my child, that it's useful. And I even go into school and I do careers talks and stuff. So that's my part of like getting involved in education. I'm like, I'm just going to do it from the top and tell you what to do. So I think there's loads of ways to really uplift our kids. I think in this society as well, we have to, with this TikTok generation and with you know, you look on TikTok and you think you can get rich like this if you are young. You think it's so easy. Oh, I'm just going to do a makeup tutorial and have thousands of followers and stuff like that. And I think they're not seeing the hard work at the moment. They think it's easy to go viral and all this kind of stuff. So I think we do have to instill in them maybe something that we were probably instilled if you're like a child of the 80s/early 90s kind of vibe.
So we've not got too long left. And I don't know if we are taking questions. I mean, I'm a rebel, so I'm just going to go for it. If anyone does, don't know. But before then, I just want to let people leave with some strategies and tips from you guys. So if there were 3 tips you could give, I know we've spoken about flexible working, knowing your rights. I think we didn't touch on it, but networking would be one of mine. What would 3 tips or pieces of advice you would give to mothers or mothers-to-be that are trying to exist or navigate their career or launching or developing a business in entrepreneurship? What 3 key tips or advice would you give?
Okay, so my first key tip, and this is like the tip of all tips, there is a YouTube video for everything. Yeah, so if you don't know how to do something, there is a YouTube video for it. If you don't know what SEO means, or if you're trying to start a business, if you're trying to do something, there's a YouTube tutorial for everything. Go onto YouTube and get that out. When we started March Muses, we didn't have a business plan, we didn't have a financial model, we had an Instagram page, and that was how we started it. So that brings me on to my second tip. Not everything has to be so thought out, especially at the beginning. Just go for it. If you don't start, you're not going to learn, you're not going to figure out all the mistakes. Of course, it's good to have a plan and have this and that, but that can come. That can come. I think the hardest thing about starting a new business is starting that business. You know, we got our logo from a free logo maker on Google. You know, and literally when we had that first bit of March Muse stock, we sent it to all our friends and we said, post it. Just post it so that people can see it. So it's awareness. So YouTube, just start. And my third tip, if you have got little babies and they are eating like maybe one of those Ella Kitchen pouches, just so you know, if you get a peach one and then add some Prosecco on it, it makes a nice peach bellini, and that will get you through the end of the day, because I know those Ella pouches come in very, very handy. So there's another tip.
Thank you, Natalie. And Nanadra.
I'm trying to think of something quite different, but I don't know if I can give 3 tips, but what I would say, because I'm very kind of family orientated, well, as we all are, is try and make it work for you. Try and have as few regrets as possible. If you want to start that business, if you want to go back to work, do it. But don't do something that's going to make you feel awful. Try as best as you can to make both work together. Some seasons it will work better than others, but don't feel like, especially if you're going back to work, as I was saying before, don't feel like it has to be like this. There can be other ways to get to that same goal, so that both you and your children are as happy as possible.
Thank you both. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Anyone? Don't be shy.
Why are you homeschooling? I haven't actually said why you're doing this.
Okay, my answer would maybe be our question is, what is it that school can give my kids that I can't?
Time off.
But they're my children, and I chose to have the children. And I'm not saying that my kids will never ever go to school, but whilst they're young, they will actually fare better in my environment at home, being able to learn in the way that suits them, being able to learn about risk while they climb trees. I mean, in a lot of very successful countries around the world, children are not starting school till they're 7 or 8 years old, and they're doing fine. We here, our education system is struggling, is failing in many ways. So if I have the opportunity to be at home with my kids, that's what I want to do. I don't think that I will do it forever, but right now, because they're young, I want to give them that foundation. And especially as I have 4 boys, 4 black boys, and we know what it's like in this country for black boys. I want them to, when they get into school, to be strong and know who they are and not let anyone kind of dampen their enthusiasm.
I suspect they will end up going to school when they get to year 9 and you have to teach them Pythagoras' theorem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anyone have a question? Don't be shy, we won't bite.
Will you be starting up that health business? It's really successful.
It was so good. Listen, like, if you want the formula, I'll give it to you because it was so good, and it was like it was magical, and actually it really helped with parents who had children with like accessibility needs or disability needs who couldn't actually go to a pantomime at Christmas because either it's too it's not accessible or it's a sensory problem. So we had a lot of parents who had children with disabilities, a lot of parents who, there was one mum who was like, oh, my husband just passed away, we're not in the right mind to go out to pantomime, but if you can come to us, and you know, it was magical. And I think this is why we stayed in the Christmas realm, because I don't know about you, but I love Christmas. Like, it is my favourite part of the year. I'm probably the only one that's happy that it's a bit windy outside, because it's like, oh, you know what's coming, like it's coming up. So, but yeah, no, it was such a cool. And we were in Scotland and we were all around the country, Newcastle and Essex. We surfaced so many like footballers and loads of all different houses, and it was just a perfect personalised visit that was just for you and your children. So yeah, but it broke our backs.
I think we've got time for one more question if anyone wants to have the last laugh. Just go again.
One more. Is there any business ideas that you have done that you've quit because it's just been time consuming, or just kind of put on the background?
No business ideas, but for me with March Muses, so when we went on to Dragon's Den, they were like, oh, but it's seasonal, and you know, what about the rest of the year? And so what we did last year, we're like, okay, let's make sure we've got something for Mother's Day and Father's Day and birthdays and stuff. And whilst it's great to have stock, it doesn't sell like Christmas does. And a part of us kind of wish that we never did that we never tried to do all. Yeah, we know our lane, and you know, people say stay in your lane, and I kind of wish that we had. Like, Christmas is where it's at for us, and it's not that we're not busy throughout the year. My God, we're creating products from January. We're doing wholesale from literally March to we're stocked in like Selfridges and Liberty London, and soon to be Tesco. So it's like there's loads of things that we're doing throughout the year that keeps us busy, and then when Q4 starts, we are in like Christmas mode, and we do pop-ups, and we do the Ideal Home Show. So I just wish that we hadn't spent, and we spent money, we spent thousands on like, oh, a Mother's Day gift, and a Father's Day gift, and a birthday gift, and it's just like, they sell, but not like Christmas. And so I kind of wish that we had saved our money and not listened to people saying, oh, you should really do something for Halloween. You should really, I'm like, what can you do for Halloween? That's black, like it's Halloween. So I definitely feel like I wish we hadn't listened to so many people.
Well, Natalie, Nanadra, it has been a pleasure. A little bit different because normally it's all 3 of us battling with each other, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys today talking about the business of motherhood. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.